right, ladies and gentlemen, man, welcome to the narrative. Today, what we're going to be talking about is life as a Piston fan. This is the narrative talk back. So the goal of this over the next couple of series, we're going to interview with some Piston fans who are in the DPC group, who are in the Detroit Piston News group, who are just some Piston fans, and just get their feel about Piston fans and favorite players, their teams, different news. So we're just having a little bit of fun with it. We're current situations that are currently going on with the Pistons, and we'll see how people feel what they feel. All right. So we have my man Reginald. Reginald, brother, how you doing, man?
Slow motion, brother. How you feeling?
Good, 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 man. Thank you for joining us on our first episode 1. You're originating here with the
here. OG.
So, man, tell me how you became a Pistons fan, man. Like, who was your first favorite Piston? First games you remember? How it worked for you?
So I am a third generation Pistons fan. My grandparents moved up here from Mississippi in 1966. One of the first things they did was integrated with the city by going to Pistons games.
Wow.
And they raised their kids to be Pistons fans. And, of course, my life integrated with the Pistons as well. So, really, I could say from birth, I've been a Pistons fan.
That's what's up, man. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I had to say my favorite Piston of all time is Joe Dumars. I've said it over and over again that nobody has done more for this franchise than Joe Dumars has. Winning 2 championships as a player, of course, one as an exec. So that can't be matched by anybody in the organization. So
yeah, I think Joe Dumars gets forgotten about often as how good of a player he was. And I also think just over generations of time, like his style of play and what we think about as being like exciting, fast, up and down.
He was efficient, put you away. That's what I always loved about him. Quiet storm. Like, he ain't gonna talk you to death. He just gonna put in the work and make sure you take that L. That's why I love him.
It's so funny. So the show, the narrative is like the kind of like the ongoing thing we ran in the group. Like everybody had their own narratives, and we run with narratives. It's such a strong narrative about Joe Dumars because how he ended it almost to some Pistons fans. I can say all, but it's almost sometimes I feel like it's 50-50. It's almost like the narrative on his life. I don't even say life, but his legacy as a Pistons fan. It almost tarnishes the championship. And he built this team and what this team was able to do. And over that, really since after the trade of Grant Hill for like, I guess about 6-7 years, like really being like a dominant team in the East and how it often got. So how you feel about that? Like how that narrative about Joe Dumars flips so quick?
It's aggravating. And that's the only way that I can put it because nobody ever tends to factor in all the things that led to the way things ended with Joe Dumars. People forget the handcuffs that got put on him when Bill Davidson passed away. He wasn't allowed to make any moves. He was told to maintain status quo until the team was sold. Then after the team was sold, he was forced to give me something to put on the floor. Now it led to some signings that weren't too good, but he was forcing the issue at that time. And so, you have stuff like that happen. It gets frustrating because you think about like what Danny Ainge has done with Boston. He was allowed to make his way through any mistakes that he made to continue being a good GM. The same thing wasn't afforded to Joe Dumars, so that's frustrating.
Yeah. So when we think about Joe Dumars and just kind of like what we've seen happen, the one other part we think about Joe Dumars is once again how he built this team. And it's so funny, like we don't think back, but it was really like how Gore came in and was like with SVJ and all that time frame was like the dissension of the whole Joe Dumars Piston era and moved into I say Al Gore, but Tom Gore's this era where we at right now. So when we think about it, we've got Stan Van Gundy, we've had, and I'm talking about GM, we had Stan Van Gundy, We had, I guess, technically sit in Stefanski, and now where we at with Troy Weaver. And I can say that we've gotten better. I'm not saying Stefanski was bad, but he really had no vision for this team. But where we at right now with Troy Weaver, what do you feel good about, and what do you feel not so good about what we've seen so far? And I know it's early, but what have you seen that you just feel good about? What have you seen you don't feel good about?
So, of course, the first thing you got to talk about when it comes to Weaver the Cleaver, like I already named him, is his aggressiveness. He didn't hold nothing up. Nobody on the roster is safe. I like that. There's no favorites. If you here, it's because he wants you here, and you fit what his outlook for the team is. So hard working, ready to grind, athletic, long. That you already seen. We talked about the prototype that he was looking for out of the players that he's drafted. So that automatically is something that I enjoy because our team needs somebody that's willing to make the move instead of waiting for whatever reason, for personal reasons or because somebody's a favorite. No, we need W's. We need somebody to be competitive. So if you're not doing that, you out of here. So I like that. The only thing about Weaver that I don't like was him bypassing Tyrese Halliburton for Killian Hayes. I have not been shy about saying it. I thought Tyrese was our guy.
So let's talk about
I thought Tyrese was our guy.
Yeah, let's talk about Killian. Let's talk about him just a moment. I guess one of the narratives that I want to debunk, and as a Pistons fan, and once again, I know we were going to first really try to share this in our DPC group, is that I don't personally have a problem with Killian Hayes. Personally, I do not have a problem with him. But I have a problem with the narrative that was generated that he was NBA ready, that his jump shot would be ready, that his dribble was strong. Like, these are all the things that they told us that the scout said, and I'm not even blaming fans. Like, scouts said these things. Like, they were saying that he could be the best player in this draft. And I get that he's 19. I get that he's young. I don't knock that, and I'm not going to never take that away from any player. I said before the draft, and I've said it for years, that a rookie, especially a young one, you get about good 3 years of development time. However, you do want to see some potential flashes in them. And even in there's only been 5 or 6 games, it's like every major concern that was brought up previously about him, the shooting, the handles, the physical toughness, the athleticism or lack thereof of athleticism. We've seen it in NBA speed time, and he just don't seem right now to have that. So I guess my concern, always want to debunk the narrative, it's not that I have an issue with him. It's that when you say something about a guy ahead of time, and then people come back behind you and they say, "Oh, you hating, you bashing, oh, you putting him down." Then we're seeing it, and then we say, "Oh, he's 19, he's 19." But then we see these other 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds playing at a high level. Maxey 20, regardless of the circumstance, he dropped 39. There are NBA players who never dropped 39, and they've been in the league for 10, 20 years. We got Tyrese Maxey. I mean, we got your boy Tyrese Halliburton, who's playing well, extremely well. A guy who I was wrong about, and I'll admit that I was wrong about. He's better than I thought he would be. LaMelo Ball, 19, playing well. We got Patrick Williams up there up in Chicago, playing really, really well. Playing like really well, really well. Playing really, really well. So I don't use age as an excuse. So, but I want to go on my feel about it. How do you feel about, like, I don't want to just say from what you've seen of him, because what we've seen, we know hasn't been good. What are you believing is his?
So I'll put it out as a disclaimer. I'll put this out as a disclaimer. Whenever it comes to young players, my viewpoint has always been no two young players are the same. No two players develop the same. Some players need a kick in the butt. Some people will hit the ground running. And that's how it always is. That's how it's always going to be in the NBA. Now, disclaimer number 2. When COVID hit and the Pistons weren't playing anymore, the number one thing that people were doing in the groups was starting to look at prospects that they liked.
Yeah.
And the first prospect that I liked was Killian Hayes. When I saw the tape on him initially, I'm like, So then something happened. I seen another young man. His name was Tyrese Halliburton. I'm like, ooh. And I was talking to some people in the group. I was saying, man, the efficiency, the ability to play defense, the high IQ, the fact that he's a high character kid. I was like, man, this kid is checking more boxes than pretty much everybody else that I haven't seen. So that's why I felt that he was the better pick for us. Now, when it came to Killian, I kind of outlined a lot of the things that we had issues with. Okay. One thing that you want to see out of a prospect is him having at least one skill that translates to the NBA immediately. I didn't see anything that translated immediately. Like you can't shoot yet. That can always be developed. That might be down the road. That's fine. You don't have elite speed. So we're behind the 8 ball on that. He's never really going to be a high speed guy. He's going to be a crafty guy if he's going to be successful, which is fine. Then I started looking at the ball handling. I said, well, if you're going to be a point guard in the NBA, you at least need to have a handle that translates to the NBA. Oh, when I started seeing them getting stuck up at half court by other rookies, other players, and you start, you seeing how he got injured. He got injured after he got stuck up by Drew Holiday. And it was just like, all right, so we behind the 8 ball now, as far as his development. You 19 years old, he needed every bit of his rookie year because he didn't get a training camp, he didn't get a summer league, he didn't get he didn't even get a rookie symposium. So
right. That's real.
He's really behind the 8 ball right now. Now, do I think that he could be a good player? Sure. Do I see it yet? No. I was actually Kenneth Hunter, one of the brothers that's in our group.
Kenneth, real quick shout out to Kenneth Hunter. He gives us some great breakdowns on some of these players, and he's accurate most of the time. So I just want to say that real quick.
90% of the time I've seen that man accurate. And we were talking about it today, and I was like, I kind of just see him at best being a combo guard, maybe at 1.15, 5-5, which is not bad. But worst case scenario, he most likely is going to be a backup point guard because I just don't see any tangible skill that's going to lead to him being, let alone good, but elite. I just don't see it. But it's one of those things where I tell people all the time, the player is going to dictate that. I say the same thing about other players that we've drafted. Sometimes the situation has to be right. We seen what happened with Stanley Johnson.
Yeah.
Off rip, things just not go right. Off rip. The second they said, "Oh, we're gonna change your shot," coming out of the draft with no tangible reason to do it because you didn't even see him struggle with it in the NBA, that hurt. Throwing him in the corner to chuck threes, that hurt. Seeing what Stan Van Gundy did to him after the Cleveland series when I saw his confidence building. He was getting in LeBron's grill. He wasn't scared. And then in the interview afterward, SVG throws him under the bus. And I'm like, what are you doing? Let that kid build his confidence up.
That's the one thing I will say.
Like that.
The one thing I will say that's been great about, I think, Casey and Weaver. I don't necessarily agree with the idea now that if you're telling me you believe that he's a project to put him in a fire, I will believe that they are going to cultivate him to try to get the best and the most out of him without trying to alter his game too much. They're trying to really find his strength. And I think once they find his strength, they're just going to run him off of his strength to maximize him to the full potential. And I said this in the group, in our Detroit Pistons Central group, and I said this, The thing I think that's gonna work really well is that even though Josh Jackson last couple of games and we early in the season, we only like 9 games in, I think that Josh Jackson he has panned out for the most part. Last 2 games he kind of slumped off a little bit. We've hit the
Mhm.
mark with Sadiq Bey. We're gonna say that for another conversation, another time. We've hit the mark pretty well
I
with
think we were the two people that would call
Crash
them
and
our
Bash.
sleepers.
Yeah, like I said, both of our sleepers, but I said we'll say that for another time. We got Crash and
Mhm.
Bash, Stu. He seems like he's active. And then we've really hit the mark with Jeremy Grant. So, and that's another conversation for another time. But it's like, and the only reason I don't include Plumlee in the conversation because when I think 3 years down the line, Plumlee's 33, 34. I don't see him as like the future of his team. But
He'll be
those
a
guys,
backup by then. He'll be a
27, those
backup.
guys start to turn 25, 26, 27. So because he hit with those other players, I believe that
It covers
there's
up for
there's
whatever
a
happened with
level
Killian.
in Killian that we are just not seeing at fans. Maybe he's a
Mhm.
little bit on the floor struck. Maybe when he sits on the sideline, games slow down more for him. But I just don't want, as we just show called a narrative, and I'm let guys know for those coming, we're all going to address some fan stuff. Some of the fan stuff is let's not get to the point where we can't be critical of a player. We mixing like being critical of what we're seeing as fans as being hate. You can still believe in the best and want the best for Killian. I want Killian to be great because I'm a Pistons fan. I've been a Pistons fan for a while, for a long time. So I would never want a rookie to be bad. The narrative is that Pistons fans want to be bad to be right. We get nothing for being right. Like, who do I tell? Like, I was right, Killian didn't work out. Like, anybody who said it was right that Stanley didn't work out, what do you get now? You get nothing. It would be better for us to be wrong about play. It would be better for us all to be wrong about Darko. It would have been better for us. Everybody who said they hated Darko would have been better for us all to been wrong that he became like LeBron or Carmelo or Dwayne
But
Wade.
you know, but
It would
that's
have
the
been
thing,
best,
because people,
you know?
that's the thing that we realize. People like to push a narrative.
Yeah.
People love pushing the narrative, whether it's true or whether it's false. And I've been kind of calling people out on that. Like, bro, what you pushing is a false narrative. I can't tell you how many things people be saying about Andre Drummond, and I'll be like, come on, bro. Like, it's not even tangible for you to even say what you're saying anymore. Like, and like you, it, for the sake of being right, you skew that line between being a fan and being an egomaniac. To me,
Yeah.
it's all about your ego at that point. So it is what it
And, you
is.
know,
But
and I have an ego, and I have an ego. We all do. But I just think that we just got to learn that there's a difference between, once again, there are some people who just troll, and then there's us who just like, we really pay attention to the game. We pay attention to a lot of details of the game. And when we don't see the thing, like me and you, we don't always agree on every detail of it. But when we break it
no,
down and we talk it out, we'll be like, I can see what you're saying because we know that you're not
hmm
trying to create an angle or I'm trying to create an angle. We try to create an angle for our
hmm
argument. But it's not so much of
hmm
like, I'm creating my angle so you can understand my perspective, not to sway your opinion and make you change. I just want to paint a picture that you can see what I'm saying. And I think that when people understand that, when I'm a lot of times, if whether it's me, you, or anybody, we're painting pictures so people can understand. It's not necessarily to bash or throw anybody down. But man, thank you for this time. Thank you for jumping on the
hmm
first one. I would love to set this up. Any guys or gals who are interested in being interviewed or doing a one-on-one, please just drop your name inside of the chat below, inside of the comments, and I'll hit you up, or you can hit me in my inbox, and we'll get it popping, man. So this is the narrative. Thank you, Reginald. Any last parting words? Any last shout outs you want to give?
I just put it like this, man. I'll always be a Pistons fan, no matter where I'm at, no matter what state I'm in. I'll always be a Pistons fan. I love the groups that we have, DPC, news and updates, some of the best groups I've been in. Um, but I will tell you this: it's Pistons first.
Yeah.
Pistons first. All the other stuff is secondary. As long as we keep it that way, we can always have a good dialogue. Anytime we deviate from that, that's when all that other crap comes in. So just keep it 100. Just maintain being good Pistons fans.
All right, man. Thank you for interviewing. Thank you for this late night interview. Thank you for doing this first one with me. And I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah,
All right. We'll holla.